Adam Hildebrandt, the voice of the Golden Eagles, with you, and joined by new ORU head basketball coach Paul Mills. Going to have a little bit of a conversation, just introduce him a little bit to you Golden Eagle fans, and let you know a little bit about your new men's basketball coach. Paul, thanks very much for joining us. We've had a couple of conversations to chat, but this is our first time kind of doing the sit-down recorded interview on video. So let's start off with kind of before this whole process took place, before you were named head coach at ORU. What previous impressions did you have? What did you know about the school?
We opened up when I was at Baylor last season. We opened up with Oral Roberts in the opening game, and coaches, when you're an assistant, you scout the other team, and so obviously was familiar with some of the players, familiar with the pieces, very familiar with Coach Sutton. Obviously knew his dad and what a legend he is in this state, and the rich history that has occurred here. Elite Eights, back-to-back NCAA tournaments, and you knew there were conference championships, you knew there were NCAA tournaments and NCAA tournament wins, and you knew about the long history that was involved here, and those guys year in and year out competed for conference championships.
ORU, obviously a faith-based institution. Can you tell us a little bit about your personal faith and how that's developed throughout your life?
Sure. I grew up in a preacher's home. My father was a pastor, and my uncles were pastor, 3 of them, and then my grandfather was a pastor. So I was Sunday night, Sunday morning, Wednesday night, I've attended more church services than basketball games. But grew, got saved at a really early age, kind of owned my faith once I got to college and delved into it much more, and it's extremely important for me. I actually went on to seminary, and it's a way to incorporate basketball for me is in essence the carrot that allows me to have something in common with teenagers and millennials, but at the end of this day, this is about making sure that their life is transformed through the gospel and knowing Jesus Christ, because I've seen it in my own personal life, and I've seen it change other players' lives, and that's paramount for me.
A lot of that kind of life ministry starts at home as well, and you've got a family. Tell us a little bit about them.
My wife, I met her when I was in the 7th grade. She was in the 6th. I saw her in the milk line and said, "Who is that girl?" And we dated a little in the 8th grade. I think we went to a homecoming football game. Didn't really see much. We both went different directions to college. Both ended up transferring to the same place. Knew her. We dated for 4 years. We'll be married 20 this coming August. And we have 2 girls, Audrey and Abby. They will be the loudest people you will hear in the Mabee Center, and especially when the opposition shoots free throws. They have different level of shrills, and they take great pride in being able to disrupt the opponents from making free throws, so you'll hear them.
Let's get into kind of some basketball type questions. What is kind of your basketball background as a coach?
Well, I was a high school coach for 6 years, loved it, had a lot of success, and went to Rice University. Was at Rice University for a year, and then Coach Drew got the job at Baylor. He was coming from Indiana, Valparaiso, in which he told me I never wanted Oral Roberts when I was at Valparaiso, and took the job, called me, and accepted the opportunity to go to Baylor, and I've been there for the last 14 years. And for me, it's been great because as a coach, you kind of cut your teeth on, there was Eddie Sutton, who I consider a Hall of Famer, Bobby Knight is a Hall of Famer, Bill Self is a Hall of Famer, Lon Kruger will be a Hall of Famer, Rick Barnes was great. So every night you're kind of game planning against really, really good coaches, and it tests your mettle a little bit, and to see who's out there and what they're doing strategically. And you know, there's also recruiting battles that take place off the court, and so to kind of go through all of that has prepared me really well for this opportunity here.
Saw a video when you were first meeting with the guys before you were officially introduced, and you were talking about not being here to wait until quote unquote your guys are here, that you were ready to win with this roster. What are some of the pieces that you like on this roster right now?
Well, Emmanuel obviously was freshman conference player of the year, and that's a tremendous honor for him to be recognized as the best freshman in this league. I've heard great things about Javen. Albert obviously was an all-conference player, an honorable mention, but at 17 points a game. And so you have a front line there that you're really comfortable with. The Dez didn't play much as a freshman, so I'm anxious to work with him. John Trey Harris didn't get a whole lot of time because there was more of an experienced backcourt with Aaron and Jalen. And so the opportunity to work with those guys, James Conley coming in, who was a national runner-up last year as a freshman, won a national championship this year, averaged close to 10 a game, 4-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. I believe he'll help. There's some freshmen coming in. Amir, one of the other freshmen on the front line, is good. So I'm really encouraged about the pieces. It's going to take time for everybody to not only dial in, but to make sure that we're all on the same page. But I'm really encouraged about the pieces that are here.
This is new ORU men's basketball head coach Paul Mills, and with a new head coach comes new assistant coaches as well, and you've hired a couple or brought a couple in with you. Tell us about those guys.
Talvin Hester was at the University of Houston. He's been at Texas State. He's got a wealth of experience. He's been around a lot of coaches professionally and at the collegiate level, and so to get him from the University of Houston in order to come here is a tremendous asset. He was in the league, he coached at Stephen F. Austin too, and when I told him about the Oral Roberts University, he jumped at the chance because he was familiar with how tough it is to win in the Mabee Center. Sam Patterson has been with us at Baylor. He and Coach Drew collaborated quite a bit. They were kind of our offensive gurus, and I needed somebody who knew me and was familiar with me. And so to bring Sam, his wife Trish, daughter Joy, the ORU community will be ecstatic about both of those guys.
And then you've got some staff that's still around as well. How have you kind of meshed with those guys so far?
Great. Coach Perry's been phenomenal. He's done a great job holding this team together during the transition when there wasn't a coach. And he's been terrific, loves those guys, loves basketball. He's done a great job on the recruiting front. And then Coach Upshaw has been in Oklahoma and knows it. I've talked to a number of people, and people rave about Coach Upshaw and the job he's done. And they've helped me because you're walking into a new situation not really knowing the landscape, and those guys know it really well. And so for me, it's been comforting because they can fill in gaps that maybe you wouldn't be able to ascertain for 8-9 months down the road. But because they're so familiar with the situation here, they've helped immensely.
We've been speaking with new ORU men's basketball coach Paul Mills. Before we let you go, is there any message that you have for the ORU faithful?
Buy your tickets. You want to buy your tickets now. I'm really confident because not only is there a long history here, the support has been great. And those young men in the locker room, the opportunity that I've had to meet them, they are worth supporting. And I know they want a lot out of this coming year, and I want you to know that we'll give it 100%. But these players are worth supporting, and you'll want to get behind this.
That's new ORU men's basketball coach Paul Mills. Get those tickets, tune in on the radio, do both at the same time. We can do that with technology nowadays. Paul, thanks for the time.
Thank you.